From pandemic disruptions to farm bankruptcy, 2020 was a big year for ag law developments impacting producers across the country. Roger McEowen with the Washburn University School of Law joins us now to review a few of the top trends in today's Rural Money segment. Thanks for joining us, Roger. Let's start with dairy farmers who sold milk to Dean Foods shortly before its bankruptcy filing. Many received letters demanding repayment for those milk sales. Let's start with a recap and how this relates to the Preferential Payment Rule.
That's right, Christina. Good to be with you. And what we're discussing, by the way, is my almost top 10. These are the developments that were big, but not quite big enough to make my top 10 list. But the Dean Foods matter arose shortly before Thanksgiving. Some dairy farmers that had sold milk to Dean Foods got what's known as a demand letter from the trustee of the bankruptcy estate saying, you sold milk to Dean Foods within 90 days of them filing bankruptcy, you have to pay it back. And of course, that scared a lot of dairy farmers, but the answer is, I don't think many will have to, because there's an exception to that rule that says you don't have to pay it back if your transaction where you sold milk to them was in your normal course of business. And I think that'll cover most dairy farmers.
You know, this is something that we've been following very, very closely. I think a lot of farmers are feeling relieved about that. Let's switch topics here and talk about how the court upheld a large compensatory damage award in a hog nuisance suit. What was the big takeaway there?
Well, that's that big lawsuit that's been going on in North Carolina for quite some time. Actually, it's about 26 related cases involving similar set of facts. But the court did uphold a $750,000 compensatory damage award in that hog nuisance suit. And I think the big takeaway on that is that you're going to see some other states join the states that already have amended their right to farm laws to try to strengthen them to give more protections to farming operations. I think that's the big take-home out of that. The other take-home is make sure you operate your businesses, particularly your animal confinement businesses, in a manner that doesn't create problems for neighbors. And I think those are the two take-home points out of that case.
Okay, let's talk about a big one this year, the highlights regarding Chapter 12 bankruptcy filings in 2020.
Well, see, the big deal about Chapter 12 is that you can deprioritize taxes, and that's vitally important for farmers. Well, what if you've got an off-farm spouse that, as part of their wage, has taxes withheld? When you file bankruptcy, can you pull the withheld taxes that have already been paid into the bankruptcy estate and deprioritize them and basically not have to pay them? And the answer is, unfortunately, no. There has to be a claim exist at the time the bankruptcy petition is filed, and those taxes have already been paid, and they can't be clawed back and deprioritized.
And now that we're getting closer to tax time as well, that's something we're probably going to be revisiting. Before we wrap, there was also a recent case involving the lifetime ban on owning firearms for filing tax returns. Give us a recap on that.
Yeah, this one's going to really upset a lot of farm and ranch folks across the country. And what happened was you had an individual that had an incorrect statement, a false statement on their federal tax return, and it fell into the category of being a felony. And the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Third Circuit said, well, because it's a felony, that means you lose your Second Amendment rights for the rest of your life. I think that's wrongly decided. I think it'll go to the U.S. Supreme Court, and then I would anticipate that they will reverse that. But that's where that stands as of right now.
Interesting, because of safety reasons, wild animals and just being so isolated. The Second Amendment is key for rural America.
Right.
Thank you, Roger. We always appreciate talking with you. You make us smarter. Roger McEowen with the Washburn University School of Law. Thank you so much for joining us. We look forward to your real list as well going forward.